live. All right, guys, another TMP Radio episode going live from Dubai. It's the first one I've done since everything all kicked off over in the Middle East. Yeah, we're just gonna wait a couple of seconds to let everyone join in. But yeah, in the meantime, I've been having a load of messages, a load of emails from people asking, "How are you? Is everything okay? What's going on?" And from that side of things, can confirm all is good, all is okay. So I tell you what, I'll share my unfiltered experience of how I experienced the conflict and how it all kicked off. So, from a timing perspective, I couldn't have timed it any worse. Like I was out camping the night it all kicked off. My home was being renovated, so we had contractors, we had builders in, like cutting into walls, lifting up tiles, redoing floors. It was a pretty major renovation job, and it was pretty wild. And when it all went off, I was out camping, and we had no idea. We had absolutely no idea, like what was happening. We were just camping away. Me and the dog. Good to see you, Kian. Good to see you, Doug. Dialing in. Um, yeah, we were just we had no idea what was going on. We were just there. And then we're at a beach club for the second day. It's mainly kicking off, but again, we have no idea what's going on. And then we just hear these two big thuds, thud, and people started leaving. We weren't in Dubai. We were in Al Quwain, which is in Emirate North. We can take the dog out there. Super chill, super nice. Um, and then obviously we didn't have our home, so we rented an Airbnb. My honest experience was that first night was pretty surreal. Like it was pretty surreal. Hearing ordnance going off, looking at everything that's going on, like it was pretty intense. But what I can say, as somebody that's actually live on the ground and somebody that is also got access to the internet and seeing everything that's going on, I think there's a bit of cognitive dissonance on two sides of the fence. One side of the fence is people are saying everything is fine, nothing is happening, it's all made up, don't believe the media, it's all made up in the media, which is not true. It's not all made up, there is something going on. But then at the same time, there's the opposite side, which is Dubai is a war zone, it's really dangerous, everything's going off, and all the pictures, the images, and the way in which it's presented on the internet also isn't the full picture. Just like anything in the world, there's something called nuance. And often the reality tends to be somewhere in the grey. So, what does it look like on the ground? Well, first things first, what I can say is the government have done an excellent job. They've done a really good job at keeping everyone safe and keeping everyone informed. Um, it's definitely not normal insofar as getting alerts in the morning, getting in the evening. Like, never experienced that situation before. So, yeah, that's like, whoa, that's pretty intense. Um, in terms of what I actually hear on the ground, you might hear the occasional interception, heard one or two of those a day. But then I've had days where if I didn't look at the internet and if I didn't look at Instagram, if I didn't look at anything, I wouldn't notice any difference. I'd notice zero difference. So it really is a little bit of how can I describe it? It's a bit of a mental test, you know. Like that something's going on. I've always been geopolitically engaged. I've always been looking at what's been going on since I was really a kid. My uncle's a photojournalist and war photographer, so he's been showing me what's been going on around the world. So I've always been interested in that stuff. But ultimately, the actual reality on the ground is it's somewhere in between, which is it's not what you see on the news. It's also not totally normal. It's somewhere in between. It's probably the closest I've seen things be to COVID times insofar as just the surrealness of what's going on and the surrealness of reality. Um, yeah, but that's my honest take. That's what I can say. So outside of that, it's kind of the same as anything. You just got to focus on your inputs. You got to do what you can and just stay focused on task because otherwise, there are so many what ifs going on. you can get yourself stuck in thought loops. And that actually reminds me of a tool that I teach my clients, particularly when they're worried about the future or they're worried about everything that's going on. And that is called the what ifs. And what you do, it's very simple. You get a piece of paper, you write down the word what if, you draw a circle around it, and then you just write every single what if that's on your mind. What if, I don't know, the stock markets crash? What if my business falls apart? What if I get sick? What if, whatever that is that's rolling around your mind, right? And you just draw a little line and you write that down. And you keep doing that until you got no more what ifs. And then what you do is you write down what you'll do about it. If this happens, I will do X. And you write a bit of a plan. And then after that, you write down, can you handle it, yes or no? And what that'll do is that'll just exercise your unconscious mind. It will help calm you down. It helps slow you down. And it'll also help you close a hell of a lot of loops that might have been whirring around in here. So, yeah, that's something that's really, really important in times like this. And yeah, I would 100% recommend. Cool. Okay, I have seen we have got Joe has dialed in. Cool. All right, Joe, are you there, buddy? I can see you've joined.
Hello, mate.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. Talk to me, Joe. Where are you based? Like, what you up to?
I'm based on the sunny Isle of Wight at the moment, looking out the window. Yeah, it's a glorious day. I'm a performance coach as well, so I do mostly work with cyclists all over the world that are looking to achieve various bits and pieces, from just smash their mates up at the weekend to hit their next event really well. And yeah, thought I'd come and join in.
Oh, mate, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining in. Really, really appreciate it. If there was a question on your mind, if there's something I could help you with right now, whether you said you're a performance coach, right? So whether that's for your own personal performance, something that's on your mind, whether that's something that you see with your clients, or uh, anything about the coaching business. So yeah, if that's something I could help you with, what might that be today?
Hmm. Um, I think when you have a variety of good options, how do you feel at peace making a decision? So if you've got lots of good things that you could be doing, we've spoken about this before, making decisions is the most important thing. But when you've got lots of good things that you could be choosing between, you always feel like one of them could be the thing, or one of them could be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get into the loop of not making a decision and falling into that trap. So yeah, I'm interested, what guidance would you give for someone who's facing that, to give them confidence to just go make the decision?
Great question. Yeah, what do you do when you got so many good options and you don't know what to pick? Well, first things first, you got to get clear on your 3-year vision. Where is it that you want to go, and what do you want? And that will be in your personal life, and that'll be in your business life. So you'll have targets, you'll have objectives, you'll have things that you're working towards. Then you got to look at your options, and then you got to go, okay, well, of these options, which are most likely going to accelerate me towards that life? And the answer is, well, I don't know on some of them. That's okay. But if you can look at which one of these is most likely going to perform the most highest amount of leverage, if I pull that lever on that opportunity, what is going to get me the outcomes that I want that's going to take me towards my dream life? Second part is also which ones are you most excited by? Because there might be some that are good, but your heart and your soul and your instincts are telling you, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel aligned. It feels off. Or I don't know, my instincts are telling me not to do that one. Well, then that's also something that you've got to listen to, because your instincts have got you to where they are today, and your instincts will continue to serve you. So those are the 2 leverage points I would say to look at first and foremost. What comes up in you as I share that?
The second frame around how exciting it is really important. I think that's the one that can sometimes get slipped.
Mm-hmm.
You can end up looking at more what you think the ROI might be, or versus versus what's actually most exciting. So I think that's a really like a super important frame to keep in mind.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And look, you don't want to completely disregard return on investment just for the excitement, right? There has to be a balance and there has to be a trade off. But what you will find is you will perform better in the things that you are excited to go and do. I'll give you an example. The idea of sitting down and editing reels and doing content in that way, it really does not excite me one bit. But what does excite me is just rocking up on a radio show and going, all right, anyone can dial in at any time and anyone can ask questions and see what happens. Um, and we have these little organic moments. So I'm more likely to execute well on this and I'm more likely to stay in the game on this because I love it. Now there'll be a day where you won't love it every single day, but the enjoyment factor also plays into your flow factor. That goes into, well, actually, how long can you stick this? So that's what I'd say. Write all these options out. Delete any that you think, you know what, they're not going to take me towards my dream life. There's not going to be an ROI. They're kind of exciting, but the reality is like it's more of a distraction. And the thing you got to look for is the difference between signal and noise. As you gather more momentum as a coach and as a business owner, you will get more opportunities that come into your lap. And then you get more and you get more. And the trick isn't to say yes to more. It's to say no to more and yes to the right signals. And that will come through experience. There'll be some things that feel right and it'll be obvious. There'll be some things that don't. But, with time, you'll be able to filter those out better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Cheers, Kieran.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for jumping on. Cool. All right, team. So let's have a look here. So I am. Does anyone that's on the Instagram Live or on the that's here on Zoom, you can head to www.tmptribe.com. You can jump on without come on with the camera, and you just want to talk on voice, then that's okay. Looks like we've got another dial-in guest. I think is it Jake? Is Jake there? Seen somebody come into one of the waiting rooms. Okay. All right. So somebody dialed in. Looks like they've jumped out. Let's go to. Okay. Well, let's have a look at a pre-written question. Somebody that dialed in. Somebody sent. So we've got a couple here. He's back. He looks like he's back. Jake, buddy, you back? You here?
Hello. Yes, I am here.
Hey, my man. Thank you so much for diving into the radio show. Where are you dialing in from? And talk to me. Where are you based and how can I help?
Absolutely. So my name's Jake. I'm from London, but I live in Dubai. And currently, I am a mindset and business coach, operating globally across various different industries. And historically, I've been an entrepreneur, a real estate broker, loads and loads of different things. I've got a very eclectic background. But yeah, I was actually really excited to ask you about something that comes up, not just personally, but often with my mentees and my clients, which is imposter syndrome. And I suppose if that was going to be a question, on the road to at every level of success, how do you identify and then manage imposter syndrome? I suppose is a good question.
Yeah, nice. Well, the thing with imposter syndrome is that it's never, ever, ever going to go away. And you should be feeling imposter syndrome. If you're having moments where you're not feeling it, chances are you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. The feeling associated with that isn't the issue. It's your relationship with that. I'll give you an example. I used to always have this question of I'm not good enough as a fighter, as a boxer, or when I was in software sales, who am I? I don't know if I can pull this off. And it was only when my sports psychologist and performance coach said to me, if you can change your relationship with this thing and use this as evidence that you're going up to another level, well, then all of a sudden the feeling is the same, but it's just to different experiences. So you can sit there and use that feeling as evidence that you're not enough, or you can change your relationship with it and use that as evidence of this is me going to another level. Now that takes a lot of internal rewiring and a lot of observation of, well, where is this feeling coming up in my body? How is it showing? How can I surrender to that? But if you are going to do something new and do something big, like, you should feel like a bit like an imposter. Like, that's a total normal and reasonable response, because to a degree, from time to time, some of that will be true. And you can, again, fight with that, or you can go, you know what, like, what did I expect? You know, did I expect going to another level was going to feel easy? Did I feel like it was just going to, you know, flow with that? Like, no, of course. So I guess the question isn't, should you have it or not? Not that was your question, right? But internally, it's not, should I have this or not? Or should I or shouldn't I feel this way? It's, no, I should feel this way. How do I change my relationship with it? That's really it.
That makes a lot of sense, because actually, objectively, as you go through these changes, as you grow, as you go to the next level, there will be periods of time where technically you kind of are for a little while before you gain enough experience and mastery to kind of reach that threshold. And that itself changed the relationship with the feeling. That makes complete sense. It's the same with training. You know, when you start to feel, you know, the lactic build up and the pain, that it's not that you're doing it wrong, and that's how it's meant to feel. And that is a sign that you're progressing. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same as that. And with time, it will become less scary and it will become less real, because when you first observe it, it feels really real, and strong emotions make us stupid. They cut down our time frames, they cut down our options, and they make us feel like whatever it is that we're feeling, that is reality, but it's not. It's just your internal world and your thinking and your relationship with your internal world that's creating that reality and that suffering and that part of you that's slowing you down.
So what would be some useful, practical, like simple, I guess, tools to help identify when you're feeling imposter syndrome, or whether it could be something else?
Yeah, well, it's just actually speaking it back to yourself. So the previous frame of imposter syndrome is usually, I'm out my depth, I'm going to get found out, I shouldn't be here, like, who am I? That's the previous frame. The reframe is, this is evidence I'm going to another level. The amount of times I've said that in various different projects, whether that is as a boxer, whether that was in software sales, whether that is as a coach, whether that's building a team, going on radio shows, doing this, doing podcasts, I felt that same feeling again and again and again. So over the years, I have just caught myself and gone, this is evidence I'm going to another level. This is evidence I'm going to another level. And you just have to keep repeating that internally before you get there. A lot of people like to say, have so much evidence that you outwork your self-doubt, or you will outwork your imposter syndrome. But if you are truly going through to new levels, right, you will never have any evidence at that new level, because you've not been there yet. You know, you might have previous successes and you might have previous things that might give you evidence that you're competent or capable, but that isn't necessarily truly helpful in that moment. Does that make sense? So that for me is probably the highest lever. The second part, you can do some internal emotional reframing. Like, if you're finding that it's paralyzing you and you're not getting anything done, right? That's on the extreme end. Then I might use something called a timeline technique with a client to understand, well, this imposter syndrome, like, is this a new thing, or have you always felt this way? No, I've always felt this way. Okay. When did this feeling start? What's the earliest time you can imagine? Have you always had it? Yeah, no, I've always had it. And then using a timeline processing technique, we isolate the feeling, we isolate the belief, we go back into childhood to understand, well, where are they at and what's going on in there. And then we help that individual reprocess the relevant memories that enables them to let that go. So there can also be some deeper emotional work in there required, but that's on a case-by-case basis, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think realistically, the practical element of identify what that feels like for you and what that sounds like internally for you, reframe that as, this means we're going to the next level. This means that we're, you know, kind of paying the toll to enter this new range of capability, and kind of rationalizing your way through it as quickly as possible. Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, like, That's the tax. You got to pay the tax.
It reminds me of the quote that I saw recently, which is, "You worry a lot for someone who's figured out everything thus far."
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And a lot of suffering happens in the mind, and more in the mind than in reality, often, and we create these little self-torturous little spirals that get us stuck. But at the end of the day, you can either use imposter syndrome as fuel. Great, this is a positive thing. This is evidence I'm going to another level. Absolutely cannot wait. Or you can use it as a weight that just drags you down and holds you back. If it was easy, everyone would do it. If it was easy, everybody would build careers of their dreams. If it was easy, if it was easy, everyone would,
I think it's funny because it's the cliche tropes start to fall into place, but they are literally so true. It really is. But I think the leaning into imposter syndrome, I think, actually kind of speaks to the bigger point of leaning into discomfort. And it's just, for you personally, what level of discomfort are you willing to abide or embrace? And for some people, I suppose, if the deeper work hasn't been done, the imposter syndrome will be super strong and super extra uncomfortable. Whereas if that isn't such a deep-rooted thing, then it will be, that makes a huge amount of sense. Thank you, by the way. I think it's so widely applicable, and I think it's a universal feeling as well, that everyone who's going somewhere, who's wanting to do something, is going to encounter it. So yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to be willing to suffer, in any ambitious pursuit. You've got to be willing to suffer. If you want to build a life of your dreams, you've got to be willing to take hard decisions and have hard conversations and do hard, difficult shit. And sometimes it's going to break you down. So courage doesn't feel nice. Like, people think courage is this big, sexy, out expressive, expansive, like a lion roaring. It's not. Courage is sitting silently alone, feeling not enough, feeling insecure, feeling doubt, feeling like the whole world is going to come and eat you up. And it's looking that all in the eye and doing the thing anyway. They say the hero and the coward feel the same thing. The hero is the one that has the courage to do the thing anyway. Yeah. Awesome, Jake. Thank you so much for your questions. Very, really, really, really powerful there, my man. So thank you for dialing in.
No, I appreciate you massively. Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Cool. So I am going to share something that came up in, let's have a look. So I'm going to share here a little one-to-one client story. This is a client that signed up with me 6 years ago. He's become a very, very good friend. And we went for lunch the other day, and we were talking about this session that we held. And we were talking about the insight that came out of that session. So this guy, very, very successful guy, he's done phenomenally well in his business. He's done phenomenally well with his team and his clients. And I think it was probably about 5 years ago where everything was working. He'd spent so much time trying to build the business, trying to build the systems, trying to build the funnels. He worked really, really, really hard. Finally, everything was there, everything was working, and he'd pulled it off. But the problem that he'd come up with was everything was working a little, air quote, too well. So he started going out of his way to start looking for problems within his business. He started looking at, air quote, optimization. How can he optimize everything? He was starting to analyze every single client, every single team member. He started creating problems that didn't exist. And the metaphor that I said to him, and knowing how this client works, I knew that this would make him think, and I knew that this would just stop him in his tracks. And I said to him, mate, stop fucking with the sausage machine. And a big smile lit up. And he went, what do you mean, the sausage machine? And what I meant by that is, well, look, whenever you're trying to build a business, it works a little bit like a sausage machine. So at the beginning, you got to find, well, what is the type of sausage that you want to make? Is it chorizo sausages? Is it beef sausages, chicken sausages? Is it pork sausages? Whatever that might be. And then you got to figure out the casing, and then you got to figure out the casing of the sausage, and you got to figure out the machine insofar as where if I put the meat and the sausage in there, like how do I configure the box, and how do I get the handle working, and then how do I pull the handle, and out comes a nice sausage at the end. Now, this client had built a fantastic sausage machine, but the problem was he was getting bored. So instead of just pulling the handle consistently, he was trying to tinker, he was trying to toy, he was trying to change everything, when actually all he needed to do was just keep pulling that handle. That's all he needed. So we use a metaphor called don't fuck with the sausage machine. When everything is working, sometimes it's just having the discipline to do the same thing again and again and again and again and again in order to help. So yeah, that was something that came up. I wanted to share it on the radio show today because I thought it might be helpful. If anyone's got any questions, by the way, and you want to drop into the chat, I've just got a question here from a Mr. Staunton. What do you feel is the biggest modern mismatch between what we evolved for and what we face as humans in the modern world? For example, choices on offer or displacement of people. Oh man, like, what a question. What do you feel is the biggest modern mismatch between what we evolved for and what we face now as humans in the modern world? For me, the biggest mismatch between what human beings were evolved for and what we experience now in the modern world is choices. Like, we have far too many choices. We have far too much abundance. And that's what's creating all of this anxiety and this stress and this overwhelm. Like, think about it. Humans evolved as hunter-gatherers, right? We'd work in small tribes, Not an ideal tribe, I believe, is about between 10 and 30, depending on the era, right, of people. So we'd walk around in these small tribes and we'd be nomadic and we'd look around and we'd be hunting for food, hunting for fish, hunting for berries or fruits and these sorts of things. But food was very scarce. It was very, very difficult. Even water, finding fresh water to drink from also wasn't so easy. So our hardware, our bodies, and a lot of our brain has been designed for merely survival. It's built for a world full of scarcity. Yet we have more abundance than ever. It's unbelievable that we're able to get water out of a tap. Isn't that phenomenal? Or we have fire whenever we want with a lighter, or we can keep things warm, or we have AC to keep things cool. We can open a fridge completely full of food that's all hunted, cleaned, processed, ready to eat, and we can even store it. It's unbelievable. So we're just not built for that level of abundance, and I think that is probably what creates a lot of stress and panic and anxiety, That's one part. The other part is the amount of information. Our brains are not built to process the amount of information that we're processing today. We're not built for a constant stream of news. We're not built for any of that at all. So given that fact, given that we're not built for any of this abundance or any of all of this information, I'm not surprised human beings are really struggling and feeling overwhelmed and stressed and distracted. We're just not built for that. Something that I find super, super, super fascinating as well is, I think it's Duncan Trussell said it. Duncan Trussell said, there's probably some poor, foolish idiot sat somewhere in a cave in the forest with no phone, completely unaware of how anxious and angry he's meant to be, And that for me sums up exactly what I've just been talking about there. We're just not built. We're not built for this stuff at all. But what do we do? Because we do need to evolve. We do need to adapt to our environments. And if we look at the evolution of man, and if we look at where we've come from and what we've done, um, we've been highly adaptable. We've done an excellent job at being able to adapt to our environments and what's going on. So to a degree, it's really down to us to have the discipline and to have the self-awareness to understand that the lives that we live, they're just not natural. It's not normal, and that's okay. So what can you do? Well, some of it will be the applications that you look at. Is looking at the news 24/7 really a good idea? Is looking at social media all the time really a good idea? How can you optimize for experiences with no phones? How can you be more present? If you need to discharge thoughts and information through journaling and writing and breathing, then again, it's just bringing us back to our nature. That's definitely a big part there. And thank you for that question. Anything existential, anything like why are we here? How did we get here? Where is the mismatches in our biology or our neurology? I love it. I absolutely love it. I'll actually share another thing that's just popped into mind, which is in ADHD there is in fact, actually, maybe this is something I could talk about. That's something I'll talk about a little bit later. It's something called hunter-farmer theory, which is very, very interesting. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Staunton, for writing that in. Very, very cool question. Very, very cool question. So let's have a look here. Looks like we've got someone else that's dialed in to ask a question. Let's have a look. Porty, are you there, brother?
Hello, sir.
Hey, my man. Great to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on to the TMP Radio show. Where are you dialing in from?
I'm dialing in from Ireland today.
Awesome. Whereabouts?
So I'm in a place called Limerick, so I'm down in the southwest.
Oh, I've heard that West Coast is absolutely beautiful down there.
It's beautiful. It's wet. It's windy. We get summer about maybe 2 or 3 days of the year, but look, we won't complain.
Yeah, I hear you. Talk to me, Porty. If there was a question that's on your mind that I could help you with, what might that be?
Yeah, man. I so many, but I'll stick to one. So recently diagnosed with ADHD, and something that I've had a year to come to terms with before the diagnosis because it was recommended to me by my therapist to get it checked out. So it's not completely new, but I know it's something that has absolutely gotten my way up until now. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to pick your brain as someone who has it obviously hasn't held back. So I would love to know have you got any tips? Have you got any advice on someone who is kind of starting their ADHD journey now?
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, Porty, mate, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I understand it's a sensitive subject and it's not necessarily an easy thing to come to terms with. Just let me know, are you a business owner or are you an employee? Because those are two different, there's two different tracks where I might go with this.
So I'm a former teacher, but
Oh,
I think because of the ADHD, couldn't stick to the system.
yeah.
So for the last 7 years, I started off as a personal trainer, and then I started an online fitness business from there. I've been running that for the last 5 years. So I deal specifically with teachers.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah, so put it on the experience. So that's what I'm at.
Yeah.
So very much obviously kind of beat to the sound of my own drum. That can be, I think, being your own boss is both a blessing and a curse. Um, but now that there's an awareness around it, I'd love to be able to kind of, I know that you've spoken before about almost weaponizing ADHD. So again, I want to shut up and I want to let you do the talking.
Yeah. No, it's excellent. Well, there's two key parts in here. One is about the ADHD, and then the other part is about going from full-time employment to full-time business owner. So let's start with the ADHD. If you're newly diagnosed, there'll be probably two things going on. Usually it's, oh my God, this all makes so much sense. And there's like a coming to light moment of, okay, all right, yeah, like that makes so much sense. And that can be destabilizing in a couple of ways. That can be destabilizing insofar as sometimes you can reflect a little bit on the past. Well, maybe this didn't work out, this job didn't work out, this relationship didn't work out. Oh my gosh, like, why didn't I know earlier? Why didn't I know this sooner? So that there can be quite a tough part of coming to terms with that. But then there's also an opportunity, which is now you know what you're dealing with. Part of it is leaning into that. So one of the biggest things for me after I got my diagnosis all those years ago was actually forgiving myself. Forgiving myself for all of the shame, all of the self-guilt, all of the self-judgment of, air quote, why can't I be like everyone else? Why can't I sit still? Why can't I behave at school? Why can't I do all of the things that, everybody else seems to be able to do quite easily? So that was the first part, was actually that level of self-forgiveness. How can I forgive myself for all of that self-judgment? Because the corrective messages that you'll have had from schools, from teachers, from friends, from family will have been pretty intense and often linked to your ability to do things that an expectation of a neurodiverse person versus a neurotypical person can be quite tricky. That can also create self-worth issues. I certainly struggled with not feeling good enough. So I did the thing that I guess the new documentary, The Manosphere, would call out. I kind of went, right, for me to show how enough I am, my job is to have a six-pack and make lots of money in software sales and knock people out in boxing. I kind of took that thing literally, right? Which was, there were parts of that I loved and I enjoyed. It wasn't the most efficient or healthy way of expressing that not enoughness. So the first part is coming to terms with that. And there'll be some inner work and self-acceptance required, and introspection, which it sounds like you're on that journey you're doing, which is fantastic. The second part, and this is really the secret to weaponizing your ADHD as a ADHD business owner, is understanding that there will be tasks in your business that you accelerate at, you excel at, and that you love and that you enjoy, and you can really run at. Then there'll be other parts of the business that you absolutely suck at, that you hate, that your brain will just shut down and say, no, I'm not doing it. That will really hold you back. For me, my strengths are being in front of human beings, whether that's in my one-to-one sessions, whether that is on stage or teaching, hosting conversations, podcasts, and here we are having a radio show. What I'm not very good at is admin. I'm not very good at operations. I have a terrible memory. I have a lot of memory issues. And it can really, really get to me. I can be quite forgetful. All my client notes are like bloody scrolls of essays to make sure that I don't forget anything. I don't really like AI note takers for one-to-one sessions. Doesn't quite feel right. But essentially, I've built a series of systems and team around me so they can get the most out of me. But then all the things that I really, really struggle with, I can hand off. One of the best hires I made is a lady called Kirsten. She's actually here. She's my right hand and my creative director and operations manager. And I don't know how I'd function without her. She's incredible. She's amazing. She has parts of her brain which I don't have. So if it wasn't for her, there'd be no social media going out. There would be no invoices going out. There would be no admin. Good to see you, Simon, mate. Top of the morning. I'd be completely stuck, So if you're earlier on in the stage of business, getting a full-time right hand might be really expensive and scary. Even a part-time 4 hours a day, having somebody in to help manage your tasks, the things that you suck at, you're not very good at, you keep forgetting, and building the systems and the SOPs, and you get them to build those systems and those SOPs for you, it will change your life. It will really, really change your life. So I appreciate that was a bit of a speech, Bawdy. There was a lot in there, so I'm gonna take a pause. What do you take out of that, and what lands for you?
So much, and had to try very hard not to butt into to so much of what you said, but I relate to everything. Um, Curiosity about like the forgiveness part. Do you feel like trauma is too intensive a word to forgiving yourself to all of those things that you mentioned?
No, I don't. For me, you've got capital T trauma, which is abuse, domestic abuse, violence, it's grief, it's tragedy, and all of these things, that human beings experience through suffering. But then you've got little t trauma, and a lot of high performing clients I have that've had abusive backgrounds, often the things that hold them back wasn't the actual capital C trauma or abuse. Some of it was just they were up on a school play one day and fumbled their lines, and now they've got a fear of speaking and they've got a stutter, or they hesitate in the way in which they communicate, or they were on a football pitch and they had a bad game and the manager singled them out and made them feel really small, you know. So I don't think it's about the word trauma. It's about your personal experience, and it's accepting that you were doing the best with what you had. You were doing the best with what you had in that moment. And most people are doing the best with what they have in any moment. So when you recognize that, you can have more self-empathy and you can have more empathy for other people too.
Hmm. So I think a nice follow-on from that is with all of that, as we said, trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and that having the knock-on effect of the self-worth. Like, I think where I've got to in business so far has been all rooted in self-worth. It's been rooted in I have to prove this to myself. I have to like chip in the shoulder kind of mentality. Everything was rooted in stress. Now that there's an understanding, now that there's been years of proof there, how do you switch from being like stress focused to being like growth focused, I suppose is where I'm going with that.
Yeah, well, good question. Essentially, what you've been using is what we'd call dirty fuel, which is feelings of not enough, using self-worth to essentially go out and do some incredible things. And I'm not knocking that because I did that for many, many years. And there are moments in life where shit's hitting the fan and things aren't great. Actually, using a little bit of dirty fuel to get out of that situation of where you are and how you think and how you feel is actually fantastic. It's phenomenal. And if you're starting out in business, again, it's a very powerful fuel source. You don't. Uh, this is where I differ to therapists a little bit because I'm looking at it from a performance standpoint. But sometimes somebody's starting a business from scratch. Sometimes keeping a little bit of dirty fuel in there is actually very helpful to get them through the immense period of time to get over the hill. But once you have got an established business and you're moving forward, that fuel will only take you to a certain level, right? And it's the level of thinking and feeling that's got you to this level isn't necessarily the level of thinking and feeling that's going to take you to the next level. So part of that is understanding that, well, if you want to enjoy if you want to enjoy business and you do want to bring down stress so you can become more creative and more in flow, you can't only be operating from dirty fuel. There needs to be a change at some point to go, you know what? I'm doing this for the love of the game. I'm doing this because if money didn't exist, I'd really love to do that. And with your background and the type of people that you help in your business, right? You can really deeply feel into who they are. You can feel into their struggles and their strife and, through what you've experienced. That's a really meaningful mission. So don't be afraid of changing the fuel source that you use, because whilst your previous successes might have been built with that fuel, that absolutely does not mean that future successes and even bigger successes won't be built on a more clean fuel. Does that make sense?
That lands. Yeah, 100%. I think there's always just that fear with change as well.
Yeah. Well, the previous caller was talking about imposter syndrome. And what I said to him was, for every level, there's another devil, and you got to get used to it. You got to change your relationship with change and change your relationship with imposter syndrome. Like it's scary, and it's exactly the same thing here, which is if you do want to change your situation, then you've got to change and you've got to take some risks and you got to be willing to step into the unknown. Not everyone's willing to step into the unknown. Sometimes circumstance will force you into the unknown and your back's up against the wall and you haven't got a choice. But when you are in a position where you're a bit more comfortable, when you have a bit more time and space, then that's where you've got to do some internal digging and push yourself so you don't have to do this off the wall, you know?
Mm. That imposter syndrome, I feel like it's something I've struggled with my whole life. I feel like as a teacher, I didn't feel like a teacher. As a PT, I didn't feel like a PT. Now I struggle to tell people that I run an online business. Like that doesn't sit with me either. But that's something I've definitely battled with for a long time. But I've also feel like that's almost a good sign as well. Is that like if it's almost like a sign of growth. But I just have one follow-up question. I don't want to take too much of your time,
No, keep going,
but
work away.
I really like your idea about hiring someone to manage you and your weaknesses. Like I've already got somebody to help with the admin side of content. I've already got the same person helping with like just the admin side of the coaching, so like tracking data, just analytical stuff that my brain just hates.
Yeah.
And I've got a client success coach as well.
Mm.
But if I was to bring on somebody to help offset the symptoms of ADHD, what do you suggest in terms of delegation?
Yeah, good question. So uh, what I would say is it sounds like you've got somebody that's doing the content and doing some of the admin. Is that person full time or part time?
6 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah. Do they have the space to go full time? Because if you've got somebody that knows you and knows how you work and they know the systems, then it's actually more simple to have one person in full time than it is to have multiple people trying to manage extra people, you know? And all it is it's just changing the scope of the relationship and the role of that team member. And it's saying to them, look, uh, I the scope has to change. I want you to manage me. And they might be shocked. What do you mean manage me? You're my boss. And you can say, no, I want you to manage me and I want you to pick up on my gaps and I want you to become my second brain. Here are the parts of my brain that I have, and you share the things that you're good at and that you enjoy and that you can deliver on consistently. And you say, here are the parts of my brain that I don't have, and here's what you're good at. And it's having that conversation and building that person's confidence to challenge you, to be there for you, to support you, but then also to pick up that gap. That's super, super important. And then doing a time audit, just auditing your time, what you're doing that's moving the needle forward and pushing you on, and what you're not doing that's not driving the needle forward and pushing you on. What's slowing you down? What's speeding you up? You know, what are the £1 tasks, the £10 tasks, the £100 tasks, the £1,000 tasks, and where are you spending your time and your energy? But I wouldn't necessarily say you need to hire if you've got that person that's there that can take on the extra hours, that's great. Now, if you don't trust that person or they're not performing at that level or you don't think they can do that role, then it might be a case of interviewing to see if you can find someone else that can do that and support you in that role. But that really comes down to what it is that you want and need, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's a fantastic point. I didn't think about just increasing hours. My one worry would be her capacity, with time differences and stuff. But I heard you speak at another event before, and you mentioned a time audit. I did it at the time, and that was extremely beneficial. So definitely revisiting that is something I'll make as a top priority task.
Yeah, because as you go through the levels, there are going to be other devils and you're going to have to do time audits again. Like, you're just going to have to. You know, that's just part of it. Like, what you were doing a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, like it's going to change. So it's just like a health and fitness audit or a medical audit. Like you got to audit your time and what you spend your time on, you know, regularly. So I think that'd be really valuable. There was something you said earlier I want to circle back on, and it sounds like you've already moved through that on your journey. But the thing I want to talk about is the shift of people going from employment and becoming a full-time business owner. A lot of people that are in their first couple of years of business, they often raise their hand and they ask me for help to help them focus, to help them get more done, to help them feel more calm and feel more clear. But the metaphor I use with them is when you're in employment, that's almost like an animal that's in a zoo. So here's the map. Here's your role within that map. We're going to feed you at this time and we're going to feed you at this time. And that's all you got to do. But when you come out of employment and you go into the full-time entrepreneur world, all of a sudden you're on an endless map. No one's coming to feed you. No one's taught you how to hunt in the wild. And no one's taught you how to maintain your energy and your resources. So that can be incredibly destabilizing and overwhelming and bloody difficult. It can be really, really, really hard. So what I would say to new business owners that are sort of stepping into that world is actually just give yourself a bit of time and a bit of patience to readjust, because I think that business is the ultimate personal development journey more than anything else. So yeah, I wanted to share that because I thought there might be some that popped up for me when you said you had made that transition from, a previous career into running a business. So hats off to you, because most people go back to work within a year, man.
Yeah, and I think that line is something that has always stood true for me, is business is the best form of self-development. I think that had I not gone down the business route, I don't think this whole different brain would have come to light. And I think that now that, as you said, new levels, new devils, what got me to where I am won't get me to where I want to go now. So it's a case of learning a new way of thinking to be able to excel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it is, think of the mind a little bit like an algorithm. So the algorithms on social media or online or in large language models, they're changing all the time. They're changing again and again and again and again and again. So if you're not updating your own algorithm, you're only going to get stuck. You're only going to be able to achieve the level of achievement and success with the level of thinking that's got you here. So by bringing on board change agents and listen to people and diving deep, they will upgrade the unconscious minds to get you to different places, So yeah, Paulie, mate, that was really, really, really fun. Thank you so much for dialing in, mate. It means the absolute world that that you'd be cool to jump in and ask me these questions.
Really appreciate the time, Kieran. Thanks so much.
No, a pleasure. And if you get any other follow-up questions, you've got me on Instagram. Just message me anytime, mate. I'd love to help wherever I can.
Much appreciated.
Cool. Awesome stuff. Amazing. Well, look, I need to check on Instagram if anyone's got any questions, or always here to ask away. Questions on Instagram. Cool. Awesome. Well, look, guys, that's been super, super, super fun. I'm really, really enjoying this radio. Hopefully people are getting value from the radio show too. So yeah, this one was shot today, Friday the 20th of March. This will be going out next week onto our podcast if anyone wants to listen to it back. But yeah, from my side, it's been super, super fun. Happy Friday. Wish everyone has a great, great weekend. Bringing over lots of love to anyone that's dialed in. Thank you to all the listeners and anyone that's dialed in as well. Big love. Catch you later.